Now, we do have an update. This is a story that we have been monitoring and tracking in the NFL all offseason because there were some people who speculated that maybe this wouldn't get done, that maybe there was going to be conversations elsewhere or maybe there would be a hire elsewhere. But nonetheless, the Pittsburgh Steelers have done the right thing. Mike Tomlin gets a 3-year extension from the Steelers as announced yesterday. He enters year 18 at the helm. This is going to take him through 2027. Never finished below 500 in a season through 17 years to start out his NFL coaching career. But Mike Tomlin is back in Pittsburgh, and he's the head coach of the Steelers for the foreseeable future. So all the stuff you heard out there, all the potential of him leaving, as it stands right now, not happening. Tomlin's back.
Good, rightfully so. I mean, he's never had a losing season. The guy does more with less at times. I think this is a year that could be a surprise year for them. You know, I'm not sure. I would imagine the odds probably for the AFC North. Do they have them at the bottom?
Efforting.
It's going to be close, but I would imagine that they are at the bottom. And if that's the case, I'm not betting against them. I mean, the track record that he's got there, and you know, defensively and making this team competitive, I think they'll be right there in the mix once again. So
plus 850, yeah, they're at the bottom.
So is that to win the division, you said?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm going to take the odds to win it. Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland, pretty damn good. But I would say this. I don't think they're going to finish last. I'll just put it that way.
Who do you think will finish last?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, last, by the way, could be, 9-8? Like,
yeah.
That's how good this division is. So you could have a winning record and still finish last in the division.
Yeah, I'm a Steelers fan, and so I'm happy to hear it. I know there's probably, just knowing how our culture is, you know, we always want coaches gone, like the entire state, right? We're like that in Philly. We're like that in Pittsburgh. For one reason or another, we always find the negatives in things and always want something different, want something new. You know, sometimes the worst thing that you can do is be a knowledgeable sports fan, because when you have the knowledge of understanding sports and like simplicities of what go into some of the aspects of it, you use those aspects to create narratives and judgments, and I feel like Mike Tomlin has been victimized by that. Now, I'm not saying he's a victim. I'm just saying the way that he's been talked about in the media, in Pittsburgh locally, the way he's been talked about by fans, some fans locally, you would think that Mike Tomlin is a failing coach, like a coach that doesn't seem to know how to get it done, or, you know, should even still be in a position where he has, you know, the head coaching job. And I never understood it. You know, I just never understood why that's the approach, why there's so much, you know, kind of like intensity towards when Mike Tomlin isn't as successful as the fans would like. Now, I don't know if it's like that in every market when a team underperforms, but I would venture to say, has this team really underperformed? You know, during his tenure, have they really underperformed? When he had gunners, they won it all. When he had guys, they were in it. And they've had some turnover, they've had some change. I know a lot of people wanted to talk about how bad the offense has been, or what's this team been like since not having been Roethlisberger. And for what it's worth, that's still a question that's up in the air. How can this team be in still search of and in need of a quarterback? And is that Russell Wilson at this point? I don't know. Is it Justin Fields if it's not Russell Wilson? I don't know. But I know this. I know that getting an extension is great, but that's still going to put a lot of spotlight and attention on what the performance of this offense is going to be, and to that point, what the performance of the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to be. We talked about the Lakers earlier. You know, this is one of those teams too. It's a storied franchise, ran by family, legacy play, and success is what the fan base has come to know, and it's what they expect.
So the pushback from a lot of people on Tomlin is that, he won a Super Bowl, but it was 2010 or 2007, whatever it was, 2008 rather, and then he was in one in 2011 against the Packers, and they're like, it's been a long time. But I always look at it like when Marvin Lewis was with the Bengals and they were going to the playoffs every single year. It was like, yeah, but they weren't winning playoff games. Like, okay, like sometimes you'll get there and things will happen, or you'll run into a better team, or there'll be a turnover or something crazy will happen in a game. Like, isn't all you can ask for as a fan just keep us competitive? Because once you get there, you get a break or two, and next thing you know, you're in a Super Bowl or you're in a conference championship game. Tomlin always has them competitive. Like, so I know the Super Bowls aren't there, but at least they're in contention, which is the first step in the process.
I think the hard thing about that example is, though, then they go with, what was it, Zach Taylor? Was that who was immediately following Marvin Lewis?
Yeah.
And so it didn't look good early. They get Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, they go to Super Bowl. So I think that's the hard part, is there is that tantalizing idea that if you have a head coach, you have a quarterback, and things align, because you still need some luck to happen. You can go to a Super Bowl, and you have a shot at once you get there, of winning it. So that's the hard part, is if you feel like you've hit your ceiling and you're not going to be able to get any better from there, then it might be worth contemplating and going, okay, let's try to, break it all down again. We've got a good foundation, but let's build it back up with somebody who's got a different plan, different vision. I thought last year was an example of Mike Tomlin showing growth by moving on from Matt Canada. I mean, he's not very responsive to outside pressures, the media, fans, what have you. Last year was an example, though, of him finally conceding the fact that this just isn't working. Doesn't matter how much you like the guy. If you think he's a good guy, you love his family, it doesn't matter. You're Bill Belichick talking about, not focusing on anything outside of just what helps us win. That's what's best for our family and everyone. That's life in the NFL. And I think for Mike Tomlin, loyalty got in the way. His stubbornness got in the way of him not moving on from a play caller that Ben Roethlisberger had an issue with, has continued to have an issue with, even since he's left there. A lot of the quarterbacks who are in that system had an issue with. It just hasn't been very conducive for success. And so finally you get Arthur Smith in there, and he makes that change, which I think will be big, for Pittsburgh moving forward. And look, I don't know how often he's on the headset and how often he's telling, guys to run it here or, run out the, whatever the case is, being a little more conservative or, punt instead of going for fourth down. I have no idea what that sounds like on the headset. But there are coaches who play the cards a lot closer to the vest. They want to be more conservative with their decision making. And it seems like we're venturing into a realm in the NFL where the best at it, they know when to go for it. They have the best play dialed up for it. They have a better feel for all of that. And so I think the biggest concern for Pittsburgh fans is probably, can he evolve from when he won his last Super Bowl to having this string of success, but is he going to be able to have that string of success ultimately pop to a Super Bowl? And I think it takes that evolution of him as a coach, and maybe we saw a little bit of that last year, finally moving on from Matt Canada, something that I don't think Mike Tomlin's made an in-season firing ever since he's been Pittsburgh Steelers head coach. Could be wrong, but I'm almost positive since he's taken over, he hasn't made an in-season firing like that ever.
I was looking at the list of AFC champions since Tomlin took over, or like the quarterbacks that won AFC title games since Tomlin took over. And it's basically Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Mahomes, and then you've got Roethlisberger, and then you got
Flacco.
And Joe Burrow. So it's literally like some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and then we see how Joe Burrow plays that, and then you got Flacco, who was the one-off year. But to be able to have success in this conference over that period of time says something. So they've been to a couple of Super Bowls. Now we get to see if they get back there with Mike Tomlin. And who knows? Maybe LaVar's guy, Russell Wilson, is the guy to do it. Maybe he's the guy to do it.
You've been very optimistic on them, though.
I'm not optimistic about it.
Yeah,
I'm not. I mean, but maybe he can recapture some of that magic. I don't know. I don't buy it. It's like a boxer when he starts losing. Like, y'all saw that Adrian Broner fight? Like, whack. I just think once a dude, dang. Just think once a dude loses their tooth and the magic, it's kind of hard to regain.